Asked on jailed son, Minister threatens journalists in UP. The opposition in Parliament says Minister of State for Home, Kheri, must be sacked. The government says the matter is sub judice. Parliament cannot discuss it. The lone survivor of the chopper crash in which General Bipin, Rawat and 13 others died also loses the battle for life in hospital. The nation pays tribute to Group Captain Varun Singh. When he was a Shaurya Chakra, this is the letter he wrote to his students in the same school he studied in. He wrote, "I was mediocre, but then went on today to win the Shaurya Chakra." In Mumbai, major COVID curbs announced till New Year's Eve. Meanwhile, roses and Santa Clauses as junior school kids come back to school for the first time since the pandemic. In fact, for many children, it's the first time in classrooms. 4 guests positive, but host Karan Johar and his family are luckily negative. He says, "My home is not a COVID hotspot. It was a small dinner for 8 people." RBI warning on the Omicron impact on the economy. Meanwhile, markets down once again today. Paytm shares also down as the lock-in period for anchor investors ends. And the new Spider-Man release, the stars on NDTV, a big global exclusive. As the opposition agitated for the sacking of Minister of State for Home, Kheri, after a police report in Uttar Pradesh said that there was a conspiracy, it is a planned conspiracy to kill farmers. Today, the minister lashed out at a journalist who was asking him uncomfortable questions. Rahul Gandhi said it's clear that he needs to be sacked immediately. However, the government has said that these issues can't be brought up in Parliament since it's sub judice.
यही हमारे मीडिया वाले हैं ना, यही साले चोरों ने
Defiant, brazen, abusive, violent and combative. This man is the Minister of State for Home in the Narendra Modi cabinet. Ajay Mishra lost his temper when the media posed the most relevant question of the day about murder charges against his son Ashish for a motorcade running over protesting farmers.
मंत्री जी, आपके बेटे पर जो और धाराएं लग गई हैं उस पर क्या कहेंगे?
उस काम के बारे में बात करो, धाराओं के बारे में
नहीं जो SIT नहीं जानती।
ऐसा है, बेवकूफी के सवाल मत करा करो। दिमाग खराब है क्या? हैं? चीजें बात कर रहे हैं। अरे फोन बंद कर दे। ऐसे यही हमारे मीडिया वाले हैं ना, यही साले चोरों ने एक निर्दोष आदमी के लिए बनाया।
The question evoking an aggressive response. Listen again.
नहीं जो SIT नहीं जानती।
ऐसा है, बेवकूफी के सवाल मत करा करो। दिमाग खराब है क्या? हैं? ऐसे यही हमारे मीडिया वाले हैं ना, यही साले चोरों ने एक निर्दोष आदमी के लिए बनाया। शर्म नहीं आती है। क्या जानना चाहते थे? क्या पूछा? ये SIT से नहीं
On Tuesday, the Supreme Court created special probe team concluded that this was not a case of an accident but was a planned conspiracy. It also asked for the minister's son Ashish Mishra to be named as the primary accused. Ashish at present is in the Lakhimpur Kheri jail. In New Delhi, the Congress party's Rahul Gandhi moved an adjournment motion in both the houses to discuss the Lakhimpur case. It was rejected, but the matter led to ruckus in the parliament.
कार्रवाई चल रही है और सब जुडिस मैटर पे चर्चा नहीं होती है, ये पार्लियामेंट्री रूल्स है।
We want the minister to resign. The prime minister refuses. नहीं ये कौन सा लॉजिक है? यहाँ पे जो भी डिस्कशन करवाना चाहते हैं करवा सकते हैं।
The opposition has been demanding for the minister's resignation. Farmer leaders feel that the minister too must also be investigated for a larger conspiracy against the farmers, citing these viral clips of an inflammatory speech 6 days prior to the farmer killings.
The BJP is citing the Ajay Mishra issue as a sub judice matter since the Supreme Court is hearing. But with the opposition strengthened and keen on his resignation, the BJP understands that how are they going to convince the people in the People's Court? With Alok Pandey in Lucknow and camera person Pawan Kumar, Sunil Prabhu, NDTV.
Well, tragic news this evening as the lone survivor of the chopper crash that killed General Bipin Rawat, his wife and 11 others. Group Captain Varun Singh, who was battling in the ICU in a Bengaluru hospital, also died today in hospital. The nation, led by the Prime Minister, paid tribute to Group Captain Varun Singh. Also, a letter that he had written after he won the Shaurya Chakra to students at his school, where he wrote, "I was a mediocre student but yet went on to do great things like winning the Shaurya Chakra. Today, he's a hero for everybody."
This was the brave Indian Air Force officer who fought for 7 days before becoming the final victim of the horrific Indian Air Force helicopter crash in Coonoor. All on board the chopper are now dead, including India's first Chief of Defence Staff, General Bipin Rawat. Fighting 90% burn injuries, Group Captain Varun Singh never regained consciousness. He was on life support at the command hospital in Bengaluru, where he was shifted. In a tweet, the Prime Minister wrote, "Group Captain Varun Singh served the nation with pride, valour and utmost professionalism. I'm extremely anguished by his passing away." Varun Singh was an inspiration to all around him. A Shaurya Chakra winner for gallantry, his motto in life was to never give up. Facing a series of grave malfunctions on a Tejas fighter, he chose not to eject, landing the jet instead under impossible conditions. Never give up was a message he passed on to students at Army Public School where he studied. Never lose hope. Never think that you cannot be good at what you want to be. It will not come easy. It will take effort. It will require sacrifice of time and comfort. Believe in yourself. Work towards it. Don't worry about being mediocre. I was mediocre in school, but then went on to win Shaurya Chakra. Group Captain Singh's father retired as a colonel in the army. His brother is a lieutenant commander in the Navy. He leaves behind a wife and 2 children.
We join the nation paying tribute to Group Captain Varun Singh. Looking at other news now, well, the latest on Omicron, where 3 new cases are reported today, 2 from Hyderabad, foreign nationals from Somalia and Kenya, who've been admitted to the Telangana Institute of Medical Sciences. A 3rd case has also been reported of a 7-year-old boy who further flew to West Bengal from Hyderabad. What's interesting is that his parents both tested negative. Also, of the 2 adults, they haven't come from at-risk countries and they were part of the random sampling collected by authorities. So, the Hyderabad medical director has now asked that all international travellers should be tested when they arrive in India. So, currently in India, we have 60 Omicron cases from across the country, the most being reported from Maharashtra. But again, that's because they have much more genome sequencing than many other states in the country. The rest from Rajasthan, Gujarat and states around the country have about 1 each, 2. Delhi has 6. But let's just look now at what the real world data on Omicron is showing, given the examples we're seeing in South Africa and countries like Denmark. Sonal explains.
So the real world data, which is the most credible document when it comes to healthcare decisions taken worldwide, has now started coming in. And this after at least 3 weeks of Omicron that has begun. That basically means the entire life cycle of the disease from infection to end, we now finally are beginning to understand. So we at NDTV looked at the data from 3 hotspot regions, South Africa, UK and then Denmark, to give us a sense of what exactly is happening. Let's begin with South Africa, where Omicron has now become the dominant strain across Africa. Testing there has shown it is responsible for almost all new infections, and the 7-day average of the daily cases in South Africa has climbed within a month from just 260 to over 19,400 for the week of December 12th. Now also the real world data on Pfizer COVID-19 jab protection talks about how Omicron states some important pointers, like 41% of those over 2 lakh cases that got Pfizer, 2 doses of Pfizer that is, the jab makes vaccinated people 70% less likely to get hospitalized. This is, by the way, if you thought good news, not really, is lower than 93% protection than we got as protection from, say, Delta. Moving to UK now, the data there suggests that kids below 18 infected with Omicron are at 20% higher risk of admission and complications versus the first wave. Talking about this, the Liberal Democrat MP as well in their parliament shared the data that found that children are at higher risk of admission to hospital of complications after infection from Omicron, and more data actually says that younger age groups were 51% less likely actually to test positive during the Omicron wave. Let's move on to Denmark now. The country with the highest cases and capita in the world now is actually Denmark, with 77% of its population fully vaccinated, 23% boosted, that means a third dose, and will soon be now the Omicron dominant. In comparison to US, that is 61% vaccinated, 15% boosted at this moment, and the average cases over there are tossing up between 120,000 a day to almost, out of that, 66,000 getting hospitalized. So like I said, still a lot we do not know, but we cannot take this virus any lightly, even after the booster dose.
Well, and in Mumbai, more restrictions, because now, in fact, current restrictions have been extended till New Year's Eve. So for the city that never sleeps, well, with COVID, the curfew is very much in place till the 31st of December. This includes that all shops, establishments, malls will have to have people who are fully vaccinated working there. Also, only fully vaccinated visitors allowed at malls and shops, and open and closed spaces to function with only 50% capacity. And for gatherings of over 1,000 people, authorities must be informed, and all public transport is available only to fully vaccinated people. However, the good news today coming from Mumbai was that all schools opened for children as young as from class 1 to class 7. And the good news again is that for some children, it was their first time in classrooms. So the teachers were there welcoming them with roses and music.
Children are thrilled to be back in school. And the reasons vary depending on the age group.
Teacher पढ़ाया इसीलिए अच्छा लगा.
Parents are relieved.
खुल गया स्कूल, सुकून मिल गया. बहुत परेशान करते हैं.
बच्चे भी खुश हुए होंगे.
हाँ, बहुत खुश थे.
मैं ना बोल रही थी कि ये कोविड की वजह से मैं बच्ची बोली नहीं मैं जाऊंगी स्कूल.
Students in middle school are more circumspect about the problems of online schooling. 12-year-old Mehak Upadhyay lives with her family of 7 near the Worli Dairy, a few hundred meters from the school. She says online schooling was difficult to access and understand, especially maths and science. Mehak's father is a taxi driver and she used to attend online school using her mother's phone.
ऑनलाइन अच्छा नहीं रहता है, उसमें समझ नहीं आता है. ऑफलाइन अच्छा रहता है, उसमें सब समझ में आता है. जो भी डाउट रहता है सर से पूछ लेते हैं, सर क्लियर भी कर देते हैं.
A third of the parents signed a consent form to send their children back to school. Over 2 lakh children returned to school after nearly 2 years in around 1,900 BMC schools that reopened for classes from 1 to 7 today.
हमें भी बहुत खुशी हो रही है क्योंकि 2 साल बाद हमें आमने सामने मिल रहे हैं और पढ़ाने में बहुत ही अच्छा लग रहा है.
But due to the emergence of the new variant, there are uncertainties. Some private schools have reopened, while others will reopen in the days to come if there are no further restrictions.
खुशी की बात है कि 2 साल से हमारे पहली से 7वीं के बच्चे आ रहे हैं स्कूल में. सैनिटाइज हमने बिल्डिंग कर लिया है. बच्चों को मास्क हमने प्रोवाइड किया है. हर बेंच पे एक बच्चा बैठेगा. पेरेंट्स को जो डर था जो भी है वो कंसर्न उनका काउंसलिंग किया गया.
The state's COVID task force had cleared the reopening of schools with COVID protocols. Experts say the continued closure of schools was affecting the learning experience and childhood of children with disastrous consequences in the long term. But now, with schools having reopened, the challenge is to keep the children safe. In Mumbai, with camera person Ashok Mahadik, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV.
Fantastic to see children back in schools there. This at a time, of course, when schools in the National Capital Region all closed because of pollution. Meanwhile, Karan, the host of the party in which 4 of his guests have tested positive, from Kareena Kapoor to others, Karan Johar issued a statement today saying that he and his family have tested negative. He said this proves that his home is not a COVID hotspot. He said strict protocols are maintained at his home. He had a get-together of just 8 people. Of course, unluckily, 50% of those are now positive. As he said, 8 people gathering is not a party. He attacked reportage without assessment of facts, saying that me and my family and all his staff have luckily tested negative for COVID. Well, the RBI has issued the latest report with a warning on Omicron, saying the global economy is currently held hostage to the Omicron variant, saying the domestic outlook is upbeat, but concerns over Omicron are surfacing, that demand in India faces headwinds if officials impose curbs to contain this variant, and that private consumption in India remains below the pre-pandemic level, adding that the global economy remains hostage to heightened uncertainty and fears of fresh containment measures leads to a shadow over the global outlook, which is mainly Omicron, stubborn inflation and supply bottlenecks. Well, markets have declined today for the 4th straight day. The Sensex down by 329 points, the Nifty falling by over 100 points. This was mainly hit because of realty and PSU banking stocks, which declined the most. Paytm stocks also fell over 13% after the lock-in period for anchor investors ended. At close, the stock was down 7.6%. Experts saying that Paytm anchor investors are now acting on existing valuation and profitability concerns.